gentlemen, welcome to Anime Watch Club, a bi-weekly group discussion and review where the hosts of the What Do You Say Anime podcast nominate and vote on shows either we haven't seen or shows that will hopefully lead to a great discussion. On today's episode, the computer animated boxing fans of the What Do You Say Anime podcast will be reviewing the 2021 anime sequel, Megalo Box 2 Nomad. Now, ladies and gentlemen,
let's get ready to rumble!
First up, making his return back from Southeast Asia after his kickboxing excursion, fighting out of the dank green corner with a record of 21 wins and 0 losses, the East Coast Ghost himself. We got Jay. Jay, how's it going?
I just want to say that I do not advocate for Pete using that soundbite. I know that the guy who is famous for that is very litigious about it, so I had nothing to do with that.
That was all me. I will take full responsibility for whatever things I don't know about Bruce Buffer at the moment. My bad. Next up, fighting out of the blue corner, he is the What Do You Say Anime heavyweight champion of Discord. We got Miles. Miles, how's it going?
It's going good. Pete, litigious means that he will sue you.
Oh. Big words confuse me.
That's okay. From your response, I got the sense that you thought he might have, done something with a child.
Yeah, I think he's like alt-right, or he's on Truth Social, and I just didn't know about that. He probably is, but I just didn't know that. So, whoops-a-daisy. Now, hey, I learned something new every day. So, thank you for this vocabulary lesson. And Pat.
Woo! Yeah. There we go, Pat. Woo! Yeah, that's the all the chorus of applause that I get. Yeah, thank you.
And the crowd goes mild.
No, they went mild last one, right? That's his name. Sorry. Okay. Great puns to start off. I'm on a roll. But yeah, let's talk about Megalobox. That's why we got this beautiful introduction. Megalobox Nomad Season 2, done by Studio TMS Entertainment, who's done a million other shows. And yeah, why don't we start off with our first impressions? Try and keep it spoiler-free from Season 1, I guess. I don't know if you're listening to this without seeing Season 1, then go watch it. But yeah, let's try and keep it spoiler-free if we can. Miles, what do you think about Nomad Season 2 of Megalobox called Nomad?
So, I really liked it. I think it sets its tone really well within its first 3 episodes. I think I don't know. I really enjoyed Megalobox Season 1, and I really enjoyed Megalobox Season 2. So, get ready for that. I think it's really interesting how the show maintains its core, I think, in a very important way, but then also evolves itself in, a pretty cool way, too. I think it's definitely still Megalobox, but it's taken its themes and kept them, but changed the tone around those themes. Maybe I might just be saying words, but I don't know. That's what I feel like, and I thought that was really neat. There's a very neat Mexican Southwest North America sort of vibe to this show. I really liked that. I feel like that's something we don't see a lot of in anime. And so I thought that was great, and I don't know. I very much enjoyed it. So if you like Season 1, I would definitely watch Season 2.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. The vibe and the location of the show was awesome, even though it's never actually really described. Other than I don't even know if they say it's in America. Technically, I think it's implied very heavily, but it's not necessarily said. So I think that's pretty cool.
I think it's in Japan, but
I think it's Japan, but something is implied to have happened to America that has caused people to mass immigrate to Japan as well, because they have the whole little "why don't you speak our language" bit at the beginning.
I just assumed that was a dig at I don't know, Mexicans or South America or Latin Americans, pardon me, for crossing the border into the U.S. That's how I interpreted it. But
the themes are definitely applicable to the modern day U.S., and I'm not going to say they're not, but I think that it takes place in Japan. They have a typhoon
so cool.
that hits them or whatever. So, and the show is weirdly understatedly post-apocalyptic in a few ways.
Yeah.
So, I think Jay is going to tell us accurately In some, he's not okay.
Well, I was gonna say. Well, I was just gonna say like a typhoon is just a hurricane. So we get
Yeah,
hurricanes
from
here in the U.S. too. So
well, yeah, but a
it's tough.
typhoon is specifically a hurricane that happens in the whatever hemisphere or whatever. The one that
Interesting.
we're
All right.
not in,
Well,
the
yeah,
Western
yeah,
one.
the Western one. There you go. Either way, I definitely either way. Like the whole immigration is a huge part of the theme in the first 3 episodes, which I thought was really really well done. As well. But yeah. So Pete, what about you? What are your first impressions of the show?
Yeah, I thought it was really cool how they kind of set the tone of season 1 was like the fight inside of the ring, and season 2 to me felt more like the fight outside of the ring. While I guess the events still take place in the ring to like solve the issues, it was more of like an underlying theme of like there's more things going on outside of the event than we see, because season 1 was a lot of just like Joe's progression through the tournament. And then season 2 is sort of like the aftermath of everything, and sort of just finding a place where he belongs after losing his beloved, like ring general or whatever they're called in boxing. I forgot, manager or whatever. So I really like that. It reminded me, man, I don't want to steal Jay's take, but it reminded me of another show where they switched the tone of it in the second season, and I thought they just handled that really well. So I like this more than season 1, to be honest. I thought this was fantastic. And yeah, kind of just what Miles said. They took the tones of season 1 and kind of twisted it on its head a little bit and revamped it, but it was still Megalobox at the end of the day. So highly recommended for sports fans, drama fans, like real life situation fans. It kind of also gave me like some cyberpunk vibes of battling like addiction and stuff like that. So that was really cool. So yep, 2 thumbs up for me.
There you go. All right. And Jay, what about you?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this as well. Like Pete said, it did have some very strong similarities to another show that he and I both raved about this year, which is Vinland Saga, with how it kind of swapped up. So honestly, if there's some people who will hear that and they probably will decide not to watch Megalobox season 2
Mm.
based off of that because they want more like fights or action or whatever. And that's fine. It's okay to not want to watch a show for whatever reason, but in my opinion, I really liked the direction that it went as well. I liked like the character building they did for Joe, as well as like all the kids that he was raising at the end of season 1. Really liked their character arcs, and the main, villain or antagonist, I guess, Mac, had a pretty interesting character arc himself, honestly. It reminded me of like some of the better Rocky movies where you have like the protagonist getting his like groove back, and then you also have like the villain who is his own character and has his own character arc, which they also had in season 1, but I feel like it was even more pronounced with Mac this time. So yeah, I would 100% recommend this to anybody who likes like sports, specifically combat sports, and if you watch the first season, then definitely recommend watching the second season.
Yeah. All right. And I'll go quick as well. I would also agree that if you enjoyed this first season, I would definitely go into the second season. I wouldn't. I would say that the change, from my understanding, of course, because I haven't finished season 2 of Vinland yet, is that the differences between season 1 of this and season 2 Nomad were less significant. Like there's still fights, there's still a good amount of action in this season. So I wouldn't say it's as drastic as what I've heard Vinland was, which was, again, I can't wait to watch it, but I know some people were very turned off by it. I would say that this show definitely has a different tone because the focus. I really liked Pete's analogy of life in the ring. The fights were in the ring in the first season versus the second season. It was focusing on what was going on outside of it. But that was very true throughout. And I really enjoyed the new characters as well. It was cool to see, like Jay mentioned, the kids grow up a little bit and see what they are starting to do and how they're starting to establish themselves, while also still getting to see Joe, Gearless Joe, fight and everything else. So I highly recommended this as well. I do think it slowed down at various points in the story, but that's something we can definitely talk about because overall I still loved it throughout. So yeah, so it sounds like 4 recommendations from the 4 members here today. So yeah, do we have any specific talking points or things that we wanted to get out of the way first?
Yeah, I have one. I want to get you guys' thoughts that the big symbol of Megalobox Season 2 was the hummingbird, and which symbolized a lot of times family, finding family, protecting family, that whole, I guess, like surrounding thing around family. And I think like each person had like their own different types of meanings with the hummingbird. So I kind of want to get you guys' thoughts on how you viewed kind of like how the story progressed with using the symbolism of the hummingbird.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that as someone who kind of already had a bit of knowledge about the symbolism of the hummingbird in Latin American cultures. I believe it's either yeah, I believe it's Aztec warriors or maybe Mayans. Sorry to anybody that I'm getting those confused there, but they had a great reverence for the hummingbird, and they represented the departed souls of warriors. The priest would actually like what in one of the celebrations of the hummingbird god, who was like chief among the gods, would wear like these cloaks made of like 400 hummingbird skins or something like that put together. So knowing like the Latin American theming of the show, that added another layer of it for me personally, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, so a quick Google, and this could be super wrong, tells me that it was the Aztecs, Jay.
Cool. So I was
Um,
right on my first vibe. Nice.
yeah, but that throughout Mesoamerica, it has been associated with brave animal spirits, ancestors, and ancestral gods. Bloodletting, sacrifice, and the advent of the rainy spring. A lot of stuff. So they really like the hummingbird. um, uh, yeah, I really liked that as sort of like a connecting point between, I guess, like the different fighters that we watch. Joe, Chief, and then Mac sort of have a connection through that hummingbird story, right? Of like trying to find a home. And even though all of their situations are like a little different, it's something that sort of like binds them together and that they can empathize with each other over and like bond over. And I think that's like a really cool thing. And it's also just like neat imagery, right? Like it just hummingbirds look cool. Um
Yeah.
You stole
and
my point, which was just that hummingbirds are fucking sick, man.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, they're
like,
dope.
like, we have a couple feeders outside our house, and like I'll be sitting at dinner and just watch one for like 5 minutes. I'll just be sitting there like, oh, look at him go. Like what that boy doing? And man, they are just such cool animals. I didn't know about the specific stuff like the Aztec and the and everything else. I knew that they were very well liked in Latin American culture though, because I mean, they're well liked here because they spread pollen, right? And they do the similar job to what the bees do and how important they are to your ecosystem. I think that that's something that was probably touched upon in the story in some way beyond obviously like the main purpose. It very clearly is the symbolism with the nomad and the hummingbird story. But I also think that their importance within their communities, with that being Joe, um, Mac, right, was his name. I'm so bad with names, God. And Chief, they are so important within their community in the same way that a hummingbird is important within an ecosystem. I think that was at least somewhat intentional as well, on top of the other imagery.
I also like how it sort of symbolized like continuing life, I guess, in the story. So, for instance, Chief would whittle hummingbirds next to his son's grave, and then we saw that Joe using Chief's gear at the end, which symbolized um, sort of like Chief helping Joe later on with like his progression. And then what I really liked about Max was that he was having these episodes where he would just like eat like a child, and at one point he like tore up his son's book and he taped it back together, and sort of like that was the hummingbird for him, was like repairing his family from like what he's been going through. And I thought like the symbolism with him repairing the book was sort of like him repairing his like ties with his family, because of doing Megalobox has had serious repercussions with sort of like how his family is dealing with everything since his son like almost died, and he kind of had to do this to save his son's life. So I just really enjoyed kind of like how each person had this hummingbird symbolizing something, whether it's like grief or progression or just tying things together. I thought it was really cool, just the different ways that they use the hummingbird in this Nomad story was just, I thought it was fantastic.
Were y'all worried that he was gonna hit his kid when?
Yes, 100%. When he was like, we like put him up in the air, and then he like,
I
like froze instead.
Every time he was on screen, I was paranoid about him like chucking the kid against the wall or something. Like,
I'm glad they didn't do that, man.
Me
That
too.
would've been a
Me
bummer.
too.
It was already a bummer, but that would have been like too much, in my opinion. I only have room for so much child death in my anime.
only so much, right? Like only a tiny bit, like just made in abyss levels, right, or something, right? But
Yeah.
no, but to comment on that though, I agree. Like every time he was on screen, I was tense, and so just but his family, it felt like they repaired things pretty quickly, which I liked myself because I don't know, like they tried to dramatize his wife basically choosing to let him walk and like exist again as a human, or exist is the wrong word, but you know, like letting him have control of his body again after the accident. Like they tried to dramatize that and make his wife like feel guilty about it. And I was sitting there like that was the very clear, obvious, correct choice. I'm really glad that he came out and said the same thing to her after the fact. I guess I don't know. Maybe that's I guess
I
maybe
think,
that's an
yeah,
ableist take, I guess. But like also like I don't know. Like he has a family to support. He has a like I think that was they just I'm glad they didn't linger on that more than like a half an episode, right, where she was feeling guilty that she basically took away his autonomy and in that decision, you know. And I guess the hiding it from him part is the part that was meant to be really the bad thing, but I don't know, like that's just like a normal thing.
well, I think it's because like I don't think anyone, you know, like on paper that's like super the right choice, right? But like their family had been dealing with these issues, and then she learns that like the person she agreed to this with is like an absolute fucking scumbag, right? And so like I think that's where her guilt came from like she blames herself for what is happening to him, even if like sure it's the right choice. And like I agree, I'm glad they didn't like super dramatize it or whatever.
The only other thing I would say is I was confused at one point in the story because the guy who the scummy CEO and the professor who published the article look very similar. So I was like, wait, why did he come out and deface his own product or whatever? And then I
It's an
realized
absolute
like
Chad move.
right, that's what my point was. That's why I was like, "Oh, it's so cool," because I thought that the CEO, like, at one point, I was confused because I was like, "Oh, they're trying to do like he's two-faced, or they're trying to make him like you know, almost cartoonishly evil, like you know, like oh, scheming in the background, you know, like that's what it felt like to me at certain points. But then they also had him go and do this thing that is very empathetic and not
Tap
cartoonishly evil.
dancing,
Yeah,
that's what you're talking
yeah,
about.
and well, even beyond that though, like it was just like Jesus Christ, this guy is like really bad. But then why did he do this very empathetic thing? And then it was like, oh, it wasn't him. It occurred to me eventually, but like at first, for like a solid half an episode, I was sitting there like wait, so is he a bad guy? Because like I was like I thought it would be cool though too, because like if they made him this guy who did something wrong and then realizes, oh shit, I'm messing up and I need to stand up to my sister and to my investors and my board of executives, whatever. Like that would have been a cool little thing for them to do too, but then they didn't, and they just made him like a tap dance, like Jay said, like a tap dancing buffoon who
Yeah,
crushed popcorn, you know.
here, as a scientist, here's a little sneak peek into how you know if someone's the bad guy. If they're the main scientist the show focuses on, they're the bad guy.
Aw,
Wait,
It's
are you saying you're the
unfortunately
bad guy of
just
the
how it goes.
podcast then?
yeah, he is the bad.
Maybe.
You're definitely the main scientist of the podcast. Hold on.
Duh.
1 + 1 = 2. Oh my god. It
Wait,
was Miles the whole time.
or do we count Jay's aquariums as like science experiments? Like, I don't know which one is who's the more
No, that's a hobby. We don't get
Oh.
paid for it.
There we go. All right, yeah, so it's Miles. Never mind then.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Well,
Sorry, Pete, go
I
ahead.
was hoping I'd dodge the accusations, but
with like the tone of the show kind of shifting from more serious matters, how did you guys feel about, I think especially in the beginning, Joe sort of going through withdrawals and trying to get off the perks? To me, I thought it was kind of rushed, and I would have liked to see a little bit more of his struggle. I know that we compared it earlier to Vinland Saga season 2, but there's a scene where Thorfinn is fighting nightmares, and I thought like that's handled like really well with PTSD and maybe possibly CTE like Joe has. But want to get you guys' thoughts on like not necessarily only Joe, but some of the more serious moments, like how they was handled and whether you thought it was handled well or not.
yeah. So I definitely would agree that it's a little rushed, but I think overall it was handled like fine. I don't think you need you don't necessarily like need to like have this multi-layer arc. And I guess like the one aspect of addiction that they don't really get to is like after he's clean, I don't think he ever like is looking at the pills again, you know what I mean? Like I don't think he has that sort of struggle, which might have been an interesting thing to explore and like how he avoids that. Cuz there's just not enough time to like have a whole relapse arc in there, but that could have been interesting. I think it's interesting to me because like it's not like the first season of this didn't have serious themes and stuff, right? It's about someone who's like stuck in squalor and like how they make their way out of that and
Mm-hmm.
become a folk hero by putting their body on the line. And like but I would definitely agree that there's like a tonal difference. And so Jay, do you have thoughts on that? Because you were nodding at me, and like I don't know exactly how to express it. So
No, sorry, I was just listening to you and nodding.
okay, cool.
It's the right content.
Yeah. So I mean, I think they did a good job. I think they did a good job of highlighting their more serious themes. And this is, I guess, how I'll put it. Where you definitely had your serious themes in the previous one, but maybe they were secondary to, um, the fights
Mm-hmm.
or that mafia subplot or all of that sort of stuff. Whereas here those dramas, those interpersonal dramas, and they're both underdog stories, but I guess the getting one is about like standing up, and this one's more about getting back up. I
Yep.
feel like maybe that's the difference. Um, and so I don't know. I think it does a good job. Who else has thoughts? I've talked too long.
How did you guys feel about like the usage of flashbacks to fill us in on like what happened with Nambu, and as well as like just towards the end to fill us in about like Mac and whatnot, especially someone like Edison Blue, who more or less lives in flashbacks in this series.
Yes.
I just want to say I loved episode 4, how that was handled with Nambu sort of like on his like last limbs and holding out for hope. I thought that was just handled incredibly. I think it was easily my favorite episode of the entire series. I thought that was just how they handled that flashback, kind of seeing what Joe was going through at the time as well, and just meshing those two storylines together it was so well done.
Sometimes I like the flashbacks, right? I think that when someone's working themselves through something, like Joe's perspective in particular, where you're learning about how he lost and how that affected him as he works through what happened to him himself, I think that's a good way to use flashbacks. Unfortunately, like you're right, Lou does like live there, but they like got to box together and stuff. I wish Lou was more characterized because like I wanted to care about him more than the show kind of let me.
Yeah, I didn't feel very empathetic. Like by the end of his, like I felt empathetic for him, I guess, but you know what I mean. Like I didn't like root for him to like start walking by the end of the show again. You know, like I was kind of just indifferent about him like being there. You know, like they didn't really give him a lot of time to develop.
I felt bad about him losing to the bullshit that is Mac time.
Mac is such like a tragic character in my mind because like Mac is cheating.
Mickey Mouse. Oh, you mean Mackie Mouse?
He's
as
he's
the
Ivan
Megaloboxers
Drago.
call him.
Ivan Drago knew he was cheating.
Yuri is Ivan Drago, like literally.
I was gonna say that's what I was thinking. Like this is just Rocky.
but like
what Rocky was this season? Was it Rocky 2, Rocky 3? Like,
well,
I haven't seen barely any of them. If I'm being real,
Ivan,
so.
yeah,
I've seen none of them, so I don't know. Yeah.
Now, Mac is a lot more sympathetic than any of the Rocky antagonists. Like Mac wasn't like, oh, if I kill someone, fine. Which
If
is
he
like,
dies,
if
he
he dies, he
dies.
dies.
I think that was just a language. I think that was just a language barrier.
Yeah, you think Ivan Drago is. And then, but like, I don't. It just sucked because like, I don't know. Like one, all he had to do was not Megalobox anymore, and he probably would have been fine. But like, the dude who like some dude saved my spinal cord and let me be an athlete, I'd probably believe him. But then also like, and this is another thing that I guess I wish was explored. Mac doubting himself, like they address it a little bit, but like, if I was Mac, I would doubt the fuck out of myself if I learned that a computer chip in my brain was going haywire and causing me to be unable to lose boxing matches. Like,
yeah, it is pretty ridiculous. Which I know we kind of moved on from the withdrawal thing, but I do have one question. Was she putting drugs into his tea? Like that was that drugs, or was that just supposed to be like Mama's secret recipe? You know, like
maybe
like
just like his vitamins or something like that. I don't know.
Because I don't know, it looked like suspiciously like, you know, not like a hydrogen peroxide bottle, but you know, like a chemical bottle, you know, like an RX bottle. So
no, that was probably just like putting some syrup in it. Not like
yeah,
some lead.
not lead. Just like I don't know, man. Like Coca-Cola syrup or something.
Right? Yeah, the one with the
They're
cocaine in it. Right? Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, whatever.
No, okay. That's I thought. Well, I just was like they drew attention to, which is why I was wondering if he was going to be okay when he left Chief's village or the village of people, and then I thought that they might have him actually suffer from withdrawal, actually on the road because he was actually withdrawing rather than in his head withdrawing what was implied. You know, like what I was assuming.
Luckily, he just got protected by the thin blue line. Like, if he wasn't a former police officer, they would like that guy would have literally shot him in the face.
Yeah, he's reaching for the whole.
And then they were acting like it was all cool afterwards, and I'd be like, "Bro, don't play with me. You can catch these hands."
That's why I thought it was in America, because like the cop went for his gun for no reason. Yeah,
Matt gets it. He used to be a cop.
Yeah, he's like, you know what? No hard feelings, kid.
Yeah,
I did the same thing.
You showed restraint by not shooting me in the face 4 times for sleeping in my car.
Can we also talk about how Mac's backstory is there was a fire and also a gang fight
in the same building? It's the rain.
And lots of innocent children, right? Like, you know, like coincidentally.
Should have had kittens in there too while they were at it.
And I wasn't. How did his spine get hurt? Because he runs out with the kids and then falls down. But
adrenaline, baby.
That's how adrenaline works for sure.
It's really poorly explained.
What are you,
right?
a scientist? Like, come on.
Like it would make sense if like a 2x4 fell in the building while it was on fire and then broke his back or something like that. Like
all they had to do was someone shoot him when he was running out.
Yeah, right. But no,
I think they mentioned that he got like a bullet like nicked his spinal cord or something. Like I think that's mentioned like right at the start when they're talking, like when they start talking about him.
Okay, I just
but
like
they also show him running.
Yeah,
without,
it was like I do remember that, but then like.
But the adrenaline, yeah, what you were talking about is valid because that's why he was able to like tank it for a while. You know?
Yeah, because he we don't see him get shot. And then we just see him continuously running until he's. I don't know. It confused me a bit, but, yeah, I don't know. We're doing this we're looping way back around. But Jay, to answer like another part of your question, the only flashback stuff I didn't like was like the Sachio stuff. because like I get Sachio as like a teenager and everything, but I also think that like dropping the bomb on us in a flashback like halfway through this drama that he was the one who told Joe to go away is like not fair to the viewer.
Yeah, I didn't like that either. That flashback bothered me. Well, it didn't bother me. It was just like, oh, okay, now it
Yeah.
makes sense. Like,
Well, yeah,
cool. Like,
it was weird because like it made sense for me to Joe to run away, and it seemed interesting for him to like run from something because he's so used to like fighting stuff, but like not being able to like face people after losing when he bet so much on like the idea of winning that fight, and then like, but then that it just went away because like Sachio told him to go away, and he was like, okay,
mm.
um,
I to kind of piggyback off of that, like it felt a little bit not to the degree, but it felt almost like you remember when Mark Hamill was like complaining about how Luke would never do certain things that he did in the Lost Jedi or the Last Jedi, pardon me. That's how I kind of almost felt about Joe, like you said, running away, or leaving. Like I don't know, I felt very confused by his actions, which they, of course, then showing that flashback maybe explained them a little bit better. But to me, I don't know, it was surprising to see Gearless Joe become such a like I don't know a fucking bum,
well,
and to
he sort of
turn his
started
back on
there,
people.
which is why it made sense to me because I think like he got so used to winning and like having that crew, and he just like couldn't. He kind of like, in my opinion, and I want to hear everyone else's, I guess, but like got a little high off of himself. Like he was like, I'm holding everyone together. I have to win all the time. If I don't, then I have failed everyone. When like he's already done more than
I
enough for them forever.
think that that complex is just like from his trauma in like season one, where literally everything was riding on him winning like
Hmm.
every fucking
Yes.
match. Like
Yeah.
it's just like
100% agreed.
he's just dealing with it in the way that he knows how. So when he fails, he feels like, oh well, I don't deserve. Like I can't shame you guys with my presence. I'm the reason that Nambu died because I fucking lost. That sort of thing.
That's fair.
I think that's
Yeah.
part of season 2, right? Because like I think even if Joe lost the Megalonia tournament, he would still be like this hero to people. Like the things that he did, kind of being the underdog and making it that far was sort of like uplifting to, you saw it to Mac, you saw it with Chief.
Yeah, like
And
Mac is in like the first episode or
yeah,
something. It's inspired by him.
but the thing is, Joe doesn't realize that. Joe is just a boxer, and he doesn't realize like the impact that he's having. So I think everything's riding on the coattails of what he knows is boxing, and like him creating everything around him is because he's winning at boxing. But I don't think he realizes that like if he lost, it would be okay, which I think is sort of the point of the end of the last episode, where him losing is perfectly fine. Like he's still the hero, Gearless Joe. Win or
Yeah.
lose, it doesn't matter. And I think like that's like a huge part of Joe's character, just the progression from season 1 to season 2.
Yeah, I actually wanted to ask. I know that I saw there is a bit of a. It's like the ending is a bit divisive amongst us.
Mm.
Miles, would you like to maybe talk a little bit about why you weren't a fan of like
Yeah,
the ending and whatnot?
so and this is like, so I liked the ending. I think they wrapped things up nicely, and I liked the message that came from. And this is gonna sound, it's weird because like on paper, I understand that this ending was right, and like I think this is mostly on me, but I wanted that fight to be cooler, and I know it's, I know they're like, they both have health issues, and the point isn't the fight, and like the point is like, all of these other things that are happening interspersed within there, and like the personal acceptance and everything. But like, I did kinda just want to see him really fucking go at it, And
Keep
there
in
were,
mind, this is also like an exhibition match, by the way.
yes,
There's
no,
nothing on the line, more
I,
or less.
which would
Bes-
make it cooler if
besides
they went
besides the
really ham.
Roscoe stuff.
Yeah. But like, uh, yeah, like I don't know. I guess like it's weird because I wish that had happened but it makes perfect sense that it didn't happen. I don't know. I just
Yeah, I think it's valid to like want there to be like a big showy like final fight that's more than what we got. I think that's understandable. But I also think that they did it in a way that was true to where the story had gone and with like the things that had happened to like Edison before where like you had Yuri blaming himself for not throwing the towel like 1 second too late and basically causing him to get like decimated by punches. As well as like, just that showing Joe that he doesn't have to like destroy his body every single time in order to
Mhm.
be like a hero to people. I think that it was well done, but I also do think that you're valid for wanting there to be a bit more of like a flashy ending fight.
I'm in the same boat too, where with my or closer to Miles' side, where I wanted a little bit more flashy fight, and like it just was like after all of that build up to have it in again in my perspective, not very satisfying ending. And I do also like how the series itself wrapped up. It felt good, right? Everyone had their closure in one way or another. Everyone got what was coming to them or what they deserve, so to speak. It felt like there was and it also left room for, what was Sachio, is that his name? The teen who was fighting, like, oh, he could have his own show, or he's off to do his own adventure and maybe start his own legend. Like, I liked all of that stuff. I do, but I do just remember sitting there, like, watching the fight, and then the towel gets thrown and being like, really? Like that? That's when they stop it, Like, I don't know. I was just frustrated, and there's definitely a metaphor there. Obviously, like it's the fight was, and maybe it's like what we've talked about, right? Like the fight was outside of the ring; it wasn't in the ring, in this case, and the fight was over by that point. So who knows? But I was definitely on the frustrated. At first, I was kind of like annoyed, and then it settled in on me eventually as I kept thinking about it. But I was very very frustrated initially. But Pete, what about you?
Yeah, I think it says. I think it's for a lot of this season where I thought the fights were just like okay. I think like what they did best with the fights is sort of like the message and the impact of the fights. And to me, I loved like everything with the end fight. It's like two old dudes fighting. Like they can't go the distance like they used to. Like it's not going to be this 12-round Omega banger like he had with Yuri. Like they're both kind of like the only reason why Mac is winning these fights is because of this brain chip, and Gilles Joe hasn't been, he's been out of commission for a while. Like he's not like the same person that he used to be. So to me, it makes sense. But this fight also had my favorite scene in the entire show. There was an episode when Joe fought, I think it was episode 4 when Joe boxed Lou in the flashback. He gets knocked out. He looks at Yuri and he has like a single tear crying, kind of like he failed Yuri. And then in this fight, he gets uppercutted by Mac. He looks in the corner and he sees Yuri, but instead of crying, he's like, I'm not doing that again. Like, I'm not going out like how I did against Lou, and then gets up. And I thought like that scene was so fucking cool. Like the impact and like the scenes that they had in the fight, I thought were just so great that it like outweighed any like Sakuga boxing fights that we maybe saw in season 1. So it's like good. It's like good and bad, I guess, in a way. But to me, it's like it's like Dragon Ball, where you can have like really dope fights, but like, what does the fight mean? And to me, I felt like the fights meant something in Megalo Box, and that's why I really gravitated towards. So to me, it wasn't as big as an issue, but I would have liked to see maybe like, because we did see some cool like Sakuga boxing scenes in this season. I just didn't think that the end fireworks were what they could have been.
Yeah, I think that moment you pointed to was like supposed to maybe be it, but then like usually a moment like that is followed by like Joe kicking
Yeah,
ass,
yeah, yeah.
you know? And like I don't know, we just didn't like because this whole along with the stuff that was going on, there was this sub theme of chasing the high of Yuri and Joe's original fight, right? And like maybe part of the messaging is that like that's not something you can do. That was a moment in time. But
I would say kind of, because I think the big thing with Joe was that his final match really wasn't like where his heart was. And I feel like this was like his decision. He had like the support of everyone around him where he didn't have that fight with Lou, and I think that like that's what was important for Joe.
yeah, but I guess like what Mac and Lou wanted was to fight Joe,
Mm-hmm.
the same Joe that Yuri fought.
Yeah.
I don't think they got to.
I don't think that they could. I feel like they're like chasing after a ghost.
That's
Yeah.
what I was trying to
Yeah,
say.
gotcha,
Like
gotcha.
I think like Joe got to go out on his terms, but and like I think Mac's okay with it too, because like it's not like, I mean, he's gonna like die or whatever, but like
No, but he goes out the hero, which is like I feel like it was like passing the torch a little bit, because
yeah.
like like Mac looked up to Joe, and now the pupil has become the master or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean they made him the most sympathetic of all professions. So um yeah, I think that, I don't know, it's interesting. I guess I was waiting for some sort of catharsis moment, and I don't know if it ever happened.
Yeah, I would agree, because I think we felt. I feel like in season 1 with the Joe Yuri fight that I got what I wanted from like the finale, and this was like almost there, just like it was just missing. It was missing an ingredient. I think it was this close.
Yeah, I think the issue is that I don't think either Mac or Joe had anything to prove, and like that is for sure some of the point.
Yeah,
Because they talked about not nothing to prove, but like, I don't know. I feel like Yuri, the Yuri Joe fight is like special to me for whatever reason. I think there's something so authentic about how he like Yuri like downgraded himself to like do that fight, and I thought that was like really cool. Um, and I just don't know how repeatable it is.
I think part of it was like they were really trying to show that like Joe didn't need the win anymore because he wasn't that rabid dog just like hounding for the win anymore. He was just there for the fight, like just to enjoy himself and have a
Yeah.
fight for a bit and for every like he wanted. It's like having like a professional football player or something that comes back and does like flag football or something like that instead, like as at an exhibition instead of like full contact is kind of how I would put it. Like they can't quite get where they used to be, but it's about just like showing, hey, I'm not dead yet, and I think not dead yet is like a big thing in that with like the imagery of like Joe touching the wolf and then it getting up and walking away,
Hmm.
like even if you think you can't go on, like you might still have the ability to get up and walk away
Oh
from
yeah,
whatever's
that's a
brought you
good
down.
point.
that's maybe too like the wolf in him didn't die. The wolf like left or something. It's like
Yeah,
it's different, right? Like one is less tragic than the
Well,
other.
what was he burying at the beginning of the show if the wolf
it
didn't
was
actually die,
made
by
you
the way?
it was made for you to think that it was the wolf, but I think that it was him just letting go of the Nomad persona in general
Fair
because
enough.
it,
No,
it says
yeah,
Nomad on the rock. I figured
I
at
just
first I thought that he just named the wolf that, but yeah,
mhm. Hey, well, so and that's why I was just like,
he's just
like he's a
dramatic. That's all.
yeah, he's going through his edgy teen phase, right? Yeah.
He grew a goatee and everything. Like as a
Yeah.
goatee, where I can confirm.
I did that in COVID, so there you go. Yeah, that's a wicked throwback of a photo to think about.
Yeah, I just want to talk about. I mean, I really liked the heart that was throughout this entire series. Like, I think we've been going through it, and I don't think we've ever been like super harsh or anything. But I think that we focused on some like negative stuff, and so it's a little hard for me to describe the feeling. But it was like it's a very sincere series, I guess. Like it felt very real and personal the entire time, and I really appreciated that. I liked that. It was very grounded for a show about people boxing each other with super magic arms.
Yeah,
I think it was. I think we talked about this in our first season, but this is sort of an homage to Ashita no Joe, and sort of like it is passionate because like the people who are behind this like obviously put in work to like get a lot of this boxing background, where even like an amateur like boxing fan like me who like slightly follows like headlines but doesn't really watch it could still pick up on some things that I think like casual watchers would do. And I feel like if you're like a hardcore boxing fan, there's a lot of things that you could dig into with this series. And I don't think that they didn't necessarily have to go the extra mile in terms of like maybe like fight choreography. I feel like they probably could have done some like shonen flashing lights punch moves and like still get away with it. But I think they just did like a fantastic job of sort of just iterating like what boxing means to like a lot of people, especially in like the focus of like Latin America. And this is like so prevalent, and it's like it's so big there in real life that like they could have picked any other region. Like Chief could have been like Chinese or something like that, and like I don't know how big of a difference it would make, but like because he's like represented with all of these different symbolisms like the hummingbird and their culture, I just think that stuff like that is so cool. Like you could feel it coming from the show.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. There's definitely, I think, like soul would be a good way to describe it. There's a lot of soul
Yeah.
in this, like, and the soundtrack I think really added a lot to it as well. With like, I think that we can all agree that the OP is a massive upgrade to the former one,
It's
which
pretty
was
good.
kind of whatever. And I also really enjoyed the ED quite a bit. Yeah, it was dope. I really enjoyed the soundtrack overall.
I would echo that too. Yeah, the soundtrack for me, especially the ED. The OP, it was just like, it is. It's another OP. You know what I mean? Which again is better. Like you said, it is better than the first one because I remember really not enjoying the first one. But the ED was every time it came on, I was just like, yeah. It almost felt like watching a western. Like it's just like when it comes on,
Yeah.
it
Well,
has this
that was
beautiful soundtrack. It was great. The soundtrack in general too. Throughout the like when they were in the boxing too. I don't know if it was the same songs in the first, but like the actual like almost not dubsteppy, but a little bit of a like it had a beat to it. When the fight would actually start, that song was great. That intro song and the music in general was. Sorry, Miles. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just saying, like, I really liked the OP. I don't know. It helps set like the atmosphere of the show is so good. That's another thing too.
Yeah.
Like I think it just has a great atmosphere to it. It was I don't know. It was really good. I loved all of these little things that the show did to like create like a three-dimensional image of like the world they were in and the characters and stuff. It was really good.
All right. Yeah. Well, why don't we move on to our closing thoughts then? I guess anything that we didn't touch on, feel free to throw them in your closing thoughts. And Miles, why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so I really like the show. I definitely liked it more than season 1, which I gave an 8, but I still think this is an 8 for me. Um I think that it it has a couple of misses like we've talked about, but for the most part it's like really really good, and I really vibed with it, and I wish something was done to either flesh it out more, or God, I wish anime could get like 15 episode run times, and so you know what I mean. Like because like I definitely doesn't need 24 episodes, but I think we could have done a lot with another episode or two. But I know that just the way that it works is tough. So I don't know. Really enjoyed this show though. It's going to stick with me for a while. 8 out of 10.
There you go. Masterfully crafted.
Yeah.
8 out of 10. There we go.
Some
No,
say
no, I
perfect. 8 out of 10.
yeah, I get where you're coming from with that. Like, because for me, I don't know, I struggled at points where I was like, all right, come on, guys, let's keep going here. Like, let's get to the big fight. Let's get there. But I also do agree that if it was maybe some more subplots were formed and then fleshed out, then it would have been easy to fill 15 or even like 18 episodes. But yeah, all right, Pete, what about you?
Yeah, I love this show. This is probably one of my favorite sports anime that I've ever seen. Specifically season 2. I give season 1 an 8 as well, but I do think season 2 was a step up. I love when the impact of fights means so much. To me, that's just like what resonates me. And like action, characters were great. I loved Chief. Chief was my favorite character. He was so cool. Rest in peace to the homie. Love the symbolism with the hummingbird. I love how that intertwined with every main character in the story. Some misses here and there, but I feel like it was pretty minor. But yeah, the show was fantastic. I'm giving it a 9.
I'll just TLDR it by saying that I am also giving it a 9. But I really enjoyed this from like head to toe. I think it wasn't quite perfect. Like you guys said, some parts of it dragged. A few parts of it felt a little bit rushed, in my opinion. But overall, like the heart of it was excellent. It had like a great premise. I enjoyed the character development of all the characters that were introduced in season 1, and I think that the new characters they introduced are also well developed and interesting characters. And I just really enjoyed watching this. Yeah. So overall, for me, 9 out of 10.
All right, a 9 from Jay. Pat, what's your thoughts and final rating?
Yeah, so I really enjoyed Megalobox season 2. I thought it was really, really fun, similar to what everyone else was saying. The hummingbird symbolism really well done all throughout the show. I do think it's convenient that all of them seem to have some like how funny is it that the that Mac had the hummingbird thing hanging in his car? You know, like I thought that's. But again, if it sounds like it's that significant in the culture that they were trying to represent, that it at least makes some sense. But either way, I even without that, I still liked that the hummingbird could have been used to be such an important part of their stories, or be used to symbolize their journeys on their various boxing paths. For me, I there were just some frustrations with pacing at times. I didn't my interest levels like waned and dipped at various points. And but yeah, again, overall, very very much so enjoyed it. And I am normally not a fan of sports anime. Maybe it helps that I have never boxed before or had a very much of an interest in it, so I almost viewed it more as an anime than a sports anime, I guess. But yeah, for me, this is an 8 out of 10. I think it's stronger than season 1, which I believe I also gave an 8 out of 10. So very similar to Miles. I mean, I think it was definitely better than season 1, but it was I don't know, the frustrations kept it at an below a 9 for me. So I'm going with an 8 out of 10, which with the 4 of us, it makes our math very very easy when we do things like this. We average out to a score of an 8.5, which is zero point 0.3 higher than the Mao score on Nomad, and a whole half a point higher than our original season 1 score. So good on us for picking a show that we enjoyed. And yeah, I guess that wraps up our discussion of Megalobox season 2 Nomad. Let's talk about what we voted on. Miles, what are we watching for Pete Week?
Yeah. Huh.
Oh yeah, let me take a look at that.
Pete Week.
Is that a title?
It, sure. It's also be Asabase is what that's supposed
Ah,
to.
okay. Yeah, then sure, go for it. Why not count it?
Sure. Pete,
So,
I have some good news for you, pal.
love it. Let's hear it.
Through activity that will be banned in the future, we will be watching Uku next week,
Woo!
or next time. In second place, we have A Sister Is All You Need, which would have won without Pete's blatant cheating.
That's not cheating. You do this.
No, I've literally never done that.
You
I don't
ask
think
people to vote.
What you said? Whoa! I don't tell people how to vote.
I didn't make somebody vote for Uku. I said
It says
I said you should vote for Uku.
you need it.
Okay. All right, let's have this.
They don't have to. People
later.
don't listen to me ever. Like, I'm sorry, the one person to actually listen to me this time. Like, let me take this dub, bro.
It's Pete Week, so we're gonna forgive this.
Uku gang.
Something came in third place. Asabi Asabase came in third place.
Lit.
To quote the person, Pete told me to vote for this, and then I had to spend about a week getting them to vote correctly.
Lies and slander.
This is all true and well
And
done.
they also still didn't vote correctly, apparently, looking at the vote. So we'll let it slide.
This is libel.
I told Miles he shouldn't have counted it since it wasn't in the proper form.
Well,
it eventually became in the proper format, Jay. Because I felt bad and I don't know if this is just because my show is winning and I didn't want my show to win.
Yeah, this
on,
is
like,
exactly why.
technicality, but and people also tried to restructure their votes later on, and then I didn't allow it because they were like trying to push mine ahead and Uku to the bottom because of some of Pete's behavior. But I said no,
Head honcho, baby.
can't do that. So you're welcome, Pete.
Thanks, Miles.
Anyways, if for future reference, if you want someone to shill for you, tell them not to put so and so told me to vote because I won't count it from now on.
We'll have a talk afterwards.
And next week is Johnny week, and we all definitely have a Johnny show ready to go.
I rolled a note card.
And Pete's gonna go first to give me time to find a Johnny.
I got
show.
you. Okay, so I'm gonna give a little context to old Jonathan. Johnny has 7 anime titles rated at a 10. Toradora, ReZero, Violet Evergarden, Your Name, Demon Slayer, Attack on Titan Season 3 Part 2, and Dr. Stone, which is a pretty diverse set of genres and subject matter that's covered. But there's one thing I know Johnny loves talking about more than anything, and that is REM. But secondly, it's animation. So now I had to break it down even further than just animation. So thanks to a healthy male bot to find out Johnny's highest rated themes and genres, in his top were drama and award-winning. So I am choosing a drama award-winning show with good animation that I think would be really fun to talk about. I am nominated, and he also hasn't seen, I think, any of these movies. I'm going to nominate Howl's Moving Castle.
Oh, good pick.
I like that. All right, Jay, do you have yours ready?
I would like to hear one more person put because mine's between 2, so I'm trying to decide what I want. So I would like to hear one more person. Surely Miles is ready.
No chance. I literally have thought about this a long time, and I have no fucking clue what to do.
Hold on, give me a second. I'm just typing the
Okay.
Watch Club message at the it's club members is the at. What am I doing, Pat? You're not an amateur. Come on.
If you want to get added via the club members rule, by the way, you can join us on Discord. We have
Sick plug, Pat.
We got some great content going on there. You can yell at Miles about his culpability in the opioid crisis. You can yell at Pat about his bad sports takes. You can yell at Preston for being from Idaho.
Iowa.
There's no end to the amount of things you can yell at people about in this Discord.
I have one. Hold on. Give me a second. I do have one. I scrolled away from it by accident.
I have one, Copium.
No, I do. I did. I swear. Where'd it go? God
Fine. I guess I'll just go with mine. I'm going to go ahead and nominate Recently My Sister Is Unusual.
What?
Love it.
Perfect. Okay, all right. I did have one. Right, here it is. I did. I know. I swear to God, I did too. I just couldn't remember the name because it's similar to a lot of other names.
You honestly love to see it. I don't. What is? Jay, can you explain the reasoning behind Recently My Sister Is Unusual?
Johnny nominated Oremo, and I want him to pay for his sin.
That's completely fair. I like that reasoning.
This is described as worse Oremo. So.
Oh, let's go. I have to vote for that. Nice.
Oh, sorry. I clicked on the wrong one. It's actually supposed to be My Sister, My Rider.
Oh, okay.
Which is like worse Aeromongus.
Yeah, I was like, either way.
I was about to ask, is that Aramanga?
Okay, wait, you're supposed to do My Sister, My Rider?
Yep.
Yeah.
This is the one with the 4.87
That
on
is
now.
correct.
Okay.
Correct.
That's actually almost 2 whole points less than the other sister show.
Correct.
Okay.
Oh, we also have to watch the OVAs included in the second Blu-ray DVD volumes, right?
How about you leave? This is Jay's last episode.
All right. The copium has been huffed. Here is my nomination. I am going to put on Oreski, Are You the Only One Who Loves Me? Because I think that that's a show that has the waifu that the requirement that Jay talked about earlier, but it also actually is like very funny dialogue. It's tongue in cheek about a lot of the genres that Johnny has enjoyed in the past. I was gonna do Plastic Memories, but he's already seen it, and it's a sad show. So I don't know. This one is a little more brighter and it's actually really funny and has a lot of
It's a good
tongue in cheek
show.
commentary. It's a really good show, so I think it would be something that he would enjoy too on his own. So that's my nomination. Miles, what about you?
Yeah. So I asked ChatGPT what are 12 episode or a movie anime I should recommend my friend Johnny. He likes Demon Slayer, Toradora, and ReZero. And then it said Attack on Titan, My Hero Academia. So we've already just completely missed the boat. SAO, Johnny's favorite, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and a bunch of other junk that he's already seen. So I tried again. Holy fuck, huh? I don't know.
Great
Fuck
content.
it. Look, Erased is on here. I'm going to nominate Erased.
Oh.
Ooh.
I'm
You should have
sorry.
nominated what's it called? What was the other one? Recently, My Sister is Unusual.
You know what? No, Johnny doesn't watch the podcast, but I've already been mean enough to him recently.
That's true.
We're supposed to be nice and be like, this is why we like Johnny. We like Johnny. This is I love these noms though. These are pretty funny.
What was your nom, Pat?
Me or
Yeah.
Reski? I can give it to you after. It's very simple.
Okay. Is it Ore no Kanjo, whatever?
Ore wo
Baby.
Suki.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I guess that wraps up Watch Club, and thanks for joining us. And Pete, why don't you take it away?
Yes, if you have made this far and you want to support us, the best way to do so, like, comment, subscribe, leave a review on whatever platform you are watching and or listening to us on. Next week is episode number 200. We made it. 200. We will be playing Anime Jeopardy 10. Looking forward to that. Otherwise, if you are here for Watch Club, we will see you in 2 weeks for Uku. Thanks, and we'll see you next time. Peace.